A clever and determined teenager transforms her childcare venture into a specialized business catering to unhappy married men. In a cabin, Shirley Liner, a clever and organized junior student, narrates having a babysitting service, an agency offering companionship for middle-aged married men. The teen describes that her purpose in building the business wasn't because she had parental issues, but because she wanted to earn money for college. A few months ago at Alfred E. Groves High School, Shirley was in the classroom, taking notes as her teacher discussed the upcoming SATs. Meanwhile, her uninterested seatmate Melissa Rowan asked their friend Brenda Woodberg if her promiscuous stepsister Nadine had tried being intimate with her biological brother Scott. She pointed out that it wouldn't count as incestuous if they did. After class, a determined Shirley went home and searched her room for her calculus book to prepare for college admission exams. Unable to find it in her room, her mother Tammy suggested checking the basement, where Stan, the teen's lawyer father, was working. Shortly after, salesman Michael Beltran picked her up for a babysitting job. Strangely, when he greeted her, the shy student pulled her hair behind her ear, implying her interest in the married man. When they reached the Beltrans' home, Shirley met Gail, the wife, and their son Adam, whom she would babysit while the parents were gone for a meeting. Upstairs, the teen met Mikey, the older brother, who was upset because he wanted to be left alone with his younger sibling. However, the mother pointed out they needed a nanny to take care of them in case of an emergency. That night, Michael and Gail met at the restaurant with their businessman friend Jerry Touchman and his wife, Tina. The entrepreneur mentioned opening 2 more restaurants the next year and planned to make the salesman the vice president under him. Meanwhile, Shirley was studying for her college exams when Adam suddenly approached her because he got some dirt on his garment. After the teen put the shirt in the washing machine in the basement, she walked and paused upon seeing a miniature city and noticed the single man figurine. On their way back to the car, Michael showed interest in Jerry's offer. However, Gail wanted her spouse to turn it down because she thought he was already doing great in his current job as a salesman. Before opening the car's front door, the man invited his wife to see the abandoned train nearby, but she refused, insisting to go home because the kids were waiting for them. When the couple got home, they witnessed Shirley meticulously cleaning the floor to remove some spots using a cleaner with a strong scent. Shortly after, Michael took the babysitter back home. While on the road, the teen's stomach suddenly growled, prompting the man to invite her to eat at a diner. There, the two subtly flirted with each other, finding out they were both night owls and doing stupid things. Shortly after Shirley shared her obsession with keeping things in order, she asked Michael how he met Gail. In response, he shared that he met his wife, who used to be troublesome, outside of Ann Arbor through his friend Jerry, his entrepreneur friend. Before leaving the diner, the married salesman asked the nanny if she already had a boyfriend. However, she responded by looking at the silly customers nearby, implying she didn't have one because guys her age were immature for her. On their way to Shirley's house, Michael invited the babysitter to see the abandoned train, where they explored and eventually kissed, which the man regretted. After arriving at the teen's home, he paid her an extra tip. Upon reaching home, the disturbed student obsessively washed her hands while looking at the money she earned. Afterward, she looked at her triple reflection in the window. Meanwhile, Michael couldn't sleep beside his wife after realizing what he had done. The next day, Shirley attended class, trying to concentrate on their reproductive health subject. Meanwhile, Michael seemed preoccupied as the boss, George, discussed their new potential car product. After class, the nanny hung out at a coffee shop with Melissa and Brenda. As her friends argued about girls asking guys out, the studious teen interrupted them, insisting they should make peace with each other. Shortly after, Michael, who was in the same place, smiled at the babysitter from the window. Suddenly, Gail approached her, asking her to care for her kids on the upcoming weekday night. However, after her babysitting job, the salesman and the nanny ended up being fully intimate with each other inside the car. Later, after driving her home, the man paid the teen a generous amount of money. After her session, Shirley retrieved her total earnings in her bedroom and wrote trouble on the top dollar bill before putting it back under her mattress. Meanwhile, Michael immediately washed his clothes upon returning home. Afterward, he noticed that the little man in his miniature city had a woman beside him, revealing that the nanny had placed it because of her obsession with keeping things in place. The next day in biology class, the brilliant student revealed to Melissa that she had been earning lots of cash from babysitting. Meanwhile, the salesman also shared his intimate encounters with Jerry, who immediately became interested in hiring a babysitter for him. When Michael called Shirley to ask for a nanny for his friend, she assigned Melissa to do the job. After the new nanny cared for the kids, the entrepreneur spent intimate time with her as he drove her to the coffee shop. Upon meeting her friend, the intelligent teenager requested 20% of her salary as she was the one who arranged the opportunity for her. After finalizing the deal, the friends attended a party where the shy Brenda asked Shirley to accompany her in approaching their classmate and his stepbrother's friend, Doug, whom she had a crush on. Later, the nanny received calls from 2 of Jerry's friends, who also requested babysitters. which concerned her because they might end up in prison. When Melissa heard about this, she convinced her worried classmate that they wouldn't go to jail. After taking her friend's advice, Shirley proceeded with the business and agreed to take one guy. Her friend then suggested recruiting Brenda for the other one. Before the studious teen left the party, a shy Scott approached and offered her his hoodie to keep her warm. Shortly after, he kissed his brilliant classmate, who didn't reciprocate the gesture. After the awkward encounter, he excused himself and returned to the party. When Shirley got home, Michael snuck into her bedroom through the window. As they kissed, Stan suddenly entered the bedroom to ask for some peroxide, prompting the married man to hide under the teen's bed. Shortly after, the nanny's father stayed beside her on the bed to ask if she was dating Scott since her classmate had called for her the other day. The adolescent then reasoned that she was tired and wanted to sleep to make her dad leave. When Stan left the room, Michael emerged from under the bed, holding Shirley's money stash, which he found slipped on the mattress. Meanwhile, Jerry's friend Mark Wessler took Brenda to the woods after her babysitting job. However, when he attempted to kiss the teen, she pulled back, unaware of the information Shirley had shared with her client. Embarrassed, the man complimented the nanny's beauty, eventually leading to them being intimate in the grass. Concurrently, Michael called Shirley, whom she discovered was busy babysitting another client. After Mark dropped off Brenda at her house, Melissa and the studious teen approached their recruit, explaining that they had been doing business together since last month. The interested rookie then requested another client to babysit, indicating her wholehearted commitment to joining the team. Following this, Shirley began formalizing her business by organizing her babysitters' schedules and printing out calling cards. Meanwhile, Michael and Gail had dinner with the salesman's boss and wife. After eating, George confronted his subordinate about the declining quality of his work, asking if something was going on with him. However, the man denied this, suggesting revisions if the boss didn't like the outcome. Seconds later, the salesman's wife entered the room with the boss's spouse, who revealed that they sometimes have Shirley or other girls as babysitters. This revelation silently shocked Michael, who realized the teen had run a nanny business when his superior showed him a calling card. Following this, Michael spent some intimate time with Shirley. After dropping the teen home, they argued about the booming illegal activity. Realizing the high risk to the business, the teen upped her price to $300, which the man eventually agreed to. The next day, Brenda approached Nadine and flexed her new jacket that she bought from her babysitting salary. When her stepsister showed interest in earning money, the teen asked her to be a substitute nanny for a client without informing Shirley first. When the businesswoman discovered this, she requested her 20% cut from the recruit and officially added her to the team. However, Nadine betrayed the business by starting one on her own and recruiting her friends, resulting in Shirley's loss of clients. Because of this, the studious teen confronted Brenda, confirming if her stepsister was doing business on the side. However, her friend chose not to reveal the truth. Upon sensing that they were being lied to, Shirley and Melissa went to school that night to go through their treacherous teammates' stuff while Michael stood guard for them. After Melissa found nothing in Nadine's locker, the trio smashed everything to conceal their true intention. When Michael went home that night, he lied to the worried Gail, informing her he was in a conference. Because of this, the concerned wife reminded her husband to always call her if he would be late. The next day, the students were taken aback by the state of their trashed school, leading the principal to invite everyone to the hall. Before heading to the assembly, Shirley and Melissa gathered Nadine, Brenda, Barbara Yates, and Ollie Town in the music room. The leader then reminded them not to steal her clients, avoid showing off expensive items, and always give her the agreed 20% cut. After everyone left for the assembly, Melissa stayed with the intelligent businesswoman, informing her to take a working vacation at Jerry's cabin. She prepared fake permission slips so the girls could disguise their outing as a school trip, whereas the men would tell their families they were having a company retreat. On the day of the trip, the babysitters and their clients all attended to spend some time together. After Jerry brought some illicit substances to Michael, he revealed his particular interest in Brenda because she was naive. He pointed out that the teen would look back one day and think she had an exceptional experience. Later, when Michael witnessed Shirley intimate with another man, he felt uncomfortable and walked out. As the teen followed him, she ran into a dazed Brenda, who was going to the restroom. In the present time, the salesman offers the bright teen an illegal tablet after touching her inappropriately. Meanwhile, Jerry invades Brenda in the bathroom and attempts to exploit her, when the teen suddenly calls for her mom. The middle-aged man stops and then walks out, leaving her teen traumatized. The following day, Michael offers Shirley a ride home. Concurrently, during Brenda's babysitting duty, the troubled nanny suddenly calls Scott to pick her up so her client wouldn't have to send her home. Upon arriving at her house, the traumatized babysitter slams the door, evidently affected by her unfortunate experience at the vacation house. The following day, Brenda informs Shirley that she doesn't want to be in the business. She then agreed and promised to keep quiet about their illicit activity. When Melissa learns about this, she stops the businesswoman from letting their friend go because she might expose them. However, the bright teen only dismisses her friend and asks her to go home to prepare for tomorrow's test. That night, some middle-aged men in masks physically attack Scott, threatening him to keep her sister quiet. When the injured teen returns home, Brenda asks who did it to him. However, the adolescent insists that nothing happened. The following day, Shirley sees her bruised classmate at the school cafeteria. Shortly after, she confronts Melissa, who admits to being the mastermind behind the beating. She justifies her actions, pointing out that she's doing it for the business. Meanwhile, Michael gets home early and surprisingly sees Gail, who arrived earlier than him because their son's principal called. When the wife reveals that their child cursed their teacher, the salesman laughs it off, making her annoyed. When the salesman reveals that the boss transferred him to a low-profile account, his spouse becomes disappointed. Because of this, he frustratingly asks how much money would make her happy, despite already having the security they need. However, the passive Gail avoids the argument and instructs Michael to talk to their son. She then heads out for a meeting, canceling her date night with him. Following his wife's instructions, he goes upstairs and talks to Mikey. He then empathizes with the boy and realizes he should curse his boss like his son did to his teacher. Before leaving the house, the salesman gives his child money to buy pizza and tells him to take care of his younger brother. Meanwhile, Nadine calls Shirley and notifies the businesswoman that she will cancel her session because of the upcoming exams. In a panic, the clever teenager pulls her laptop, causing a box on the table to fall. Shortly after, she hangs up, telling her classmate she'll call her later. Frustrated with his marriage, Michael decides to meet the babysitter and then drives her to the abandoned train yard. Inside the empty vehicle, the salesman apologizes for letting her take an illicit substance in the cabin. Shortly after, he shares that Gail and him aren't compatible, implying that he and the nanny were a match. However, while the teen acknowledges that they probably deserve each other because they're both awful, she asserts that their connection is something to be nostalgic about later. In response, Michael tries to convince her to run away with him, pointing out that he doesn't want to keep her a secret anymore. However, Shirley only turns him down when he emphasizes that he needs her in his life. In response, the desperate salesman mentions he'll continuously pay the babysitter to be with him. However, the teen makes it clear that he's too late. Suddenly, a roaming cop arrives, prompting the nanny to hide. When the policeman interrogates Michael, he mentions that he is just looking around because he loves trains. Shortly after, the officer orders the man to leave the yard. Left alone, Shirley walks to the nearest phone booth to call Brenda, but Scott answers and tells her sister she can't talk to her. When the teen asks for Nadine, her classmate mentions that her stepsister is babysitting. Upon learning this, the businesswoman realizes that their treacherous teammate lied to her about canceling her session because of the exams. She immediately calls Melissa, informing her about Nadine, who takes clients behind their backs again. With the help of Jerry, Shirley and her friend arrive at a parking lot where the trader and her client are. After getting out of the car, the man opens the trunk and pulls the babysitter, handing her to the teenagers. While the duo threatens to throw Nadine off a building, the middle-aged man beats the guy inside the automobile. Suddenly, the businesswoman gets distracted and looks at the familiar car, causing her to let go of the treacherous babysitter accidentally. As Shirley and Melissa panic, they immediately grab their teammate, who is about to fall. Fortunately, Jerry comes to their rescue and pulls the babysitter up, relieving everyone. Behind them, the guy inside the vehicle comes out and shocks Melissa. Seeing her friend's reaction, the bright teen turns her head and surprisingly finds her father, who turns out to be Nadine's client. Realizing what she has done, the businesswoman breaks down. Years later, Shirley, who has a new job and a personal car, drives to Michael's place and sees her ex-client happily bonding with his family. Shortly after their eyes meet, the former babysitter returns to her car. She then tearfully reflects on her babysitting experience as a unique moment in her ordinary life.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.